Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another podcast episode of Haystack Nation. I'm your host, Jesse C.S. I'm here with Vanessa C.S.
Hello.
And here with a guest today, we have Maliyah. Hi, Maliyah.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Good.
Are you excited to be on this well-known, very popular Top 100 podcast?
Yes.
She doesn't even know what she's getting herself into.
Know.
Maliyah, tell us a little bit about yourself. First, how old are you, Maliyah?
18.
18. We can change. We can really influence her.
Yes.
We can really brainwash her.
Yep.
And Leah, what do you do? What do you do? Do you go to school? Do you
work?
Or, what do you do on your time off?
Well, I mean,
That's not really her time off.
Yeah, there really isn't any time off. I mean, right now I'm going to school, getting my prereqs.
Mm-hmm.
It's her first year of college.
Oh yeah,
first year.
How's it going? So has that been a shocker?
It's been on and off. Actually, It's something new, something that you don't expect. It's definitely not high school. It isn't. But it's fun.
Very different, right?
It's fun.
Different stage in life now for you.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And are you working?
Yes, I'm actually working at 2 jobs right now.
You go to school and work 2 jobs.
Yep.
And you're 18.
Yep.
You're acting like you're like 40 years old already.
Nope, just 18.
Well, good for you. I'm glad you're working hard and putting your best effort forth. We're going to get back to you and to Vanessa here in a few seconds, couple of minutes. And first of all, just want to remind everyone you can find our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, Podbean. So feel free to share this podcast also with others. And today we're going to be talking to Maliyah. Actually, she's got a few questions that she wants to ask, and Vanessa will also be asking some questions. But follow us on social media, and you can also again get our latest podcasts at those different what do you call them, channels, apps, things like
apps.
that. All the apps. I'm showing I'm 40. I don't understand.
What these young kids
do, what they get into here. All right. So we just celebrated Thanksgiving, right? That's been, that was fun. Did you guys have a good Thanksgiving?
Yeah.
We
were all together. Did you explain that Maliyah is my cousin?
No, she didn't even bother to mention that.
Well, maybe she was trying to keep that secret.
She was like, I don't want anyone to know Vanessa's associate, my family member. Obviously, you want people to know, so you must be proud of her.
Well, I just thought that would have been mentioned. I mean,
all I said is that all I mentioned was that she's acting like she's 40 years old, like going to school, 2 jobs, and a lot of responsibility, and she's only 18.
Yeah.
So we're proud of you. We're proud of you. So Thanksgiving. Back to Thanksgiving. Any favorite foods this past Thanksgiving? Anything new you tried? Because Thanksgiving is all about food, right? Well,
yes.
That's not all about food, but.
Well, I did make that new cranberry sauce that my sister-in-law taught me, and that was a hit.
Mm-hmm. That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not the traditional type of cranberry sauce.
It's very sweet. It's a very sweet cranberry sauce because it has like pineapple in it and an orange and Jell-O.
Someone out there saying, ooh, cranberry sauce. Ugh.
You said Jell-O so happy.
But if you add Jell-O to it, it makes it okay.
Yeah. Because I'm not a big fan of cranberries, period.
Well, you're not the only one. I think it's one of the most disliked Thanksgiving foods.
Well, not according to our friends who came over. Was it Wednesday? Mm-hmm. Or was it Thursday? No, Thursday evening, who came over to spend Thanksgiving with us.
Oh, yeah, they were disappointed.
The husband was very disappointed because he did not get his cranberry sauce.
Right.
And he said it's just not Thanksgiving without the cranberry sauce. So that's really unusual because most people don't like cranberry sauce.
That's true. Well, he's in the minority, really.
Yeah.
Leah, did you try anything new?
I made little turkeys.
Oh,
I made little turkeys.
You
with
should
them.
post that picture.
I should, yeah. Wait, you need to explain. What do you mean little? You made little turkeys. People are like, where do you get little turkeys from?
So what I did was I just got strawberries, chocolate, little marshmallows, and then pretzels. And basically
You dip them all in chocolate.
You dip all of it in the chocolate.
Don't worry, folks. It'll be posted on our...
On Facebook, Instagram.
We'll post the picture of it.
Leah's little turkeys. It was cute. Well, so you dip everything, right? And then the thing is like the strawberries, like the body, right? Like the body of the turkey.
Yep.
And then the pretzels
were like the legs.
Yep,
I like the
they
legs.
were like the legs.
Wasn't there marshmallow in that too?
Yes. So basically you would like one of the little tiny marshmallows that you had, you'll cut it in half for like the little arms. And then you would keep one of the marshmallows whole because that's like the leg part of the turkey.
Yeah.
And you would stick the pretzel in there to like kind of make it stick out a little bit more like it was actually a leg.
Yeah. It actually looked like a little turkey.
Yes. They were cute.
That was cute. It was funny.
I think my child had like 3 of them. And that's only because I stopped him at 3.
Yeah. You want to eat all the little turkeys. It was really creative though. And I'm sure it took some time, right, to get all those done. How long did it take you to make them?
I honestly don't know because I was supposed to.
She lost track of time.
Yeah, I was supposed to be up earlier just so that I could have everything done. But then by the time I was actually done with getting ready and everything else, everybody was already there.
So it probably took you all morning.
Yeah.
To get it done. And it was only 20, right? You made
Yes.
20 of them?
Yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to stop at 8.
Well, good job. Well, quick questions or, just some trivia for you all. What is the most disliked Thanksgiving food?
Cranberry sauce.
Yes. That's correct. Over 30% of Americans dislike cranberry sauce. You know what's a close second? You'll never guess this. You know what a close second was?
What? Sweet potato pie.
Mm-mm.
Or stuffing.
No.
Is it a traditional Thanksgiving food?
Oh, yeah.
So like the macaroni and cheese?
Nope.
I don't know.
This is why it's trivia, right? Because you're not.
What else is there?
Okay, I'll tell you.
Okay.
Turkey.
What?
Yeah. Turkey was close behind with 29%.
You know what?
Saying they dislike the holiday staple.
Yeah, I will say I've heard a lot of people say that they're over turkey, and we don't eat this, but a lot of people's number one choice is ham.
Even ham was like disliked by
what?
Well, considered by some, foodies to be like the least favorite side for.
I love turkey.
Well, you love turkey, not ham. I thought you said you love ham.
No, I'm just saying I like turkey, but I only eat it.
This is a kosher Adventist show, Vanessa. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Thanksgiving and turkey got like
I know
hand in hand, right?
Yeah,
That
but and we only
surprising.
eat turkey like once a year, so I'm really surprised that people don't like it when you only have it once a year.
Yeah, very true. So here is okay, here's another question. What did the Pilgrims not eat on Thanksgiving?
Turkey.
Well, that's not what this answer says.
Was it the stuffing?
No.
Corn.
No.
Oh, they had
They-
corn.
they had
They had
corn.
corn there.
But I thought, okay, well,
Oh
maybe.
man, did you not?
I
Take
did,
history
but
class?
you
Like the
but you shocked me
desserts?
with the whole people didn't like turkey, so I'm thinking this can be something shocking too.
Well, are you ready?
Okay.
Which is kind of strange because you would think that this was a very common food back then. Potatoes.
I was about to say
I was
potatoes.
going to say that.
Well, you did.
I was about to say potatoes.
Whether mashed or roasted, sweet potatoes, anything had no place at all in the first Thanksgiving. After encountering it in its native South America, the Spanish began introducing the potato to Europeans around 1570. So, yeah, I wasn't around for the first Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Believe it or not. So, they were deprived.
Of mashed potatoes.
No mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
Let me see if there's one more here. Okay, how about this one? What is the most popular dish served at Thanksgiving?
Dessert?
Mm-mm.
It's not a dessert.
Was
Mm-mm.
it
It's
like
not
the
a
corn
dessert.
or the mashed potatoes?
Macaroni and cheese.
Mm-mm.
Stuffing?
What'd you say?
Stuffing?
Yeah, it is stuffing.
I love stuffing.
Stuffing is the most popular side dish at Thanksgiving.
I can eat that. Just throw some gravy on it too.
It's served on 85% of Thanksgiving tables. So, yeah. So did you learn something new about that?
Yep.
No one likes turkey.
And everybody wants
And cranberry sauce.
stuffing.
You know what the worst cranberry sauce is?
The ones out of the can.
It's like you empty it out and it still has the imprint of a can
I
around
know.
it.
It's mold.
It's
The thing
molded.
about it is it gives you the perfect slices.
Oh, okay. It's
for
the
it.
Oh, that's
it's
what
the
it's
marks
for.
for slicing. It's the guys for slicing. Clever. Okay. Very good. All right. So let's move on here. We've got a few questions that Leah and Vanessa have prepared. Again, I don't know. I haven't been prepped for these questions. I don't know what these questions will entail. I have no clue. And disclaimer, you know, I don't know everything, so I may not know the answers to these questions. And this is only my opinion, okay?
True story.
Don't, it's my opinion. It's my view. Take it
But
or
if
leave
you have
it.
any comments, I mean, feel free to leave them.
Yeah, feel free to leave them. But this is completely
Or
my.
if you have any questions you want Jesse to answer.
Yeah, leave those too. Email us, haystacknation@gmail.com.
Or you can just leave them on the
Or, Facebook
page.
like as a comment or whatever. Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, feel free to come up with your own questions. But again, I'm never prepped. I'm never prepared. This is not scripted, and my answers I may not know. And again, it's just my opinion about things, and you may disagree or not like it. That's okay.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, don't be so pushy. Let's do it. All right, number one.
Okay, number one question is, what role does faith play in your life?
I'm talking about my life
Your life.
or your life, like in general, like your life.
Good question.
Oh,
Way to turn that back
it's
on us.
always good to clarify.
Let's just generalize it then, like just in anybody's life.
Well, it's kind of hard to know what other people think
Okay, well
about
then
it.
why would you ask that question?
Because I just wanted to make sure that I didn't want to make sure I was clarifying your
how
question.
about your life, Jesse's life?
What is that again?
What role does faith play in your life?
What role? And I was just stalling so I could come up with an answer. Okay. What role? Well, I mean, for me personally, it's my life revolves around my faith. I try to at least think that way, right? That life revolves around every decision I make, everything I think about, any future plans. That everything revolves around my faith. So I'm always trying to make sure that what I'm doing is somewhat, hopefully, an extension of my faith in God. And then also, of course, for me, faith helps me dig into myself. Kind of helps me discover about myself, because that's one thing that I think God does in our lives, is that He works in us, not just around us. Right? He's not just a God of our circumstances. He's a God that lives in us, and He's actually changing our hearts and our minds. So for me, faith is helping me constantly discover myself, realize things about myself, even the ugly things about myself, right? Because Scripture does say that, God gets into the depths of our hearts and in our minds, and so He reveals things to us that we may not feel comfortable with, right? But because otherwise, who would tell us?
Right.
Because then we can hide all kinds of stuff, right? Because no one else is going to know. So God searches us out and even reveals things to us that we may not want to know, and it brings conviction. But we need that too, because He wants us to have a good character. He wants us to be good, to grow. And without knowing that stuff, we are stunted. So for me, faith is, yes, it's about external things, it's about, living in this life and getting through circumstances and situations, but also it's about my internal life. It's about me as a person, and what am I doing to be a better person, to walk with God in a very personal kind of way. So,
Okay.
did I pass?
We'll find out when people start.
There's probably more I could add to that, but I think that's
No, that was a good answer.
Okay.
You want to read the second one?
Ooh, sweating here. Hot seat.
That's what you always say. And then when I ask you afterwards, you're like, nah.
Nah, that was cool. I got it. Figured it out. All right. I guess Leah's going to ask next.
All right. So, basically, why do we have different seasons on our spiritual journeys, and how can we make sure we stay on track?
Ooh. By different seasons, do you mean? I'm just kidding.
Stalling again.
She's pointing at you. It's like, that was your question. Why are you making her read your questions?
Well, I was just thought it'd be nice to
you're
go
just alternating?
Like, yeah, back and forth, back and forth.
I mean, I could have read mine, but I chose to read hers, so it's all honestly up to me too.
That's
okay,
true.
stop stalling, Jesse.
Freedom of will.
Stalling.
Freedom of choice there.
Stalling.
What's the question again?
See? Why do we have different seasons on our spiritual journeys, and how can we make sure we stay on track?
Well, I mean, I don't think, because I don't think we don't completely understand faith, and we don't completely always understand our spiritual journey. So, and the thing is that we're human. So even when we take 10 steps forward, we usually end up taking like 5 steps backwards, so things are constantly changing. Circumstances change, situations change. We find ourselves facing new challenges, sometimes expected, sometimes unexpected. And so we're always striving to kind of figure out how our faith plays a role in our lives. And so, and because of our human nature, because we're sinful and we make mistakes and we tend to go backwards, then we're going to go through different seasons. We're going to go through, we're going to have our high points when we're like, oh man, I'm on fire and life is good and I feel so great about where I am spiritually and with God. And then you're going to have your low points where it's like, oh God, where are you? You were with me and now I feel like you're gone. Have you abandoned me? Are you going to help me with this situation? Are you going to help me understand what's going on? And so I think part of it is just our human nature, and we have the ups and downs. And of course, there's an adversary. There is Satan, who's always challenging us and never going to let us rest, never really going to let us be at peace, But I do believe that God does give us peace in our lives. But we have an adversary who's out to get us, and so he's going to he's going to throw things at us. And so how do we stay on track?
Yes.
Well, we stay on track. For me personally, it's just realizing that the spiritual journey is a journey filled with all kinds of ups and downs, and that the track goes up and down, not just straight and forward,
Well, the reason why I asked that is because, there are some people who believe that, once you have this like life-altering thing happen in your life where you start that relationship with God, they're on like this high, and then they wonder, well, I'm on this high, and then they're like, well, I don't feel like that anymore. Yeah. So why don't I feel like that?
Yeah. Well, faith,
especially when it's someone who's new.
Sure.
So. Well,
just like with any life experience, when it's something new, we're emotionally invested, right? It's like, yeah, I'm all for it. I'm there, and we throw ourselves into it, right? But with anything else in life, anything that is, things don't run on emotion. Mm-hmm. Life doesn't run on emotion, it just doesn't, emotion eventually dissipates, weakens.
Well, you can use an example like marriage, like, you have your highs, like when you're first dating, your first year or two of marriage or whatever. And then, you start having things happen in your marriage that you have to try to navigate with your partner. So, I
realize you're just not emotionally attracted to me anymore.
Okay.
There's no more emotion. No, but you're right. I mean, it's like relationships,
we need
I
crickets.
know, right?
We need crickets.
But it's like with any relationship, at first you go through like the honeymoon phase, and it's exciting, and if it's a girlfriend, boyfriend, it's romantic, and so you go through all that, and then after a while, it's like, now I see the person.
Well,
and they may not be romantic.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Well, there's still that affection, like the love that's still there, but it's just not as
it's matured.
Yes.
It's not just about the feeling of the romance and the
right.
whatever,
and
you know.
I think just like your spiritual life, you know, we and your marriage, we're working through things. We have everyday life things that we still have to get through and work through, ups and downs, just like you would, you know, in your spiritual life as well. That doesn't mean that we don't love God anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, you know, because the nature of relationships is there's always going to be some challenge or challenges in the relationship, right? Things that don't feel good in relationships, and you definitely can't rely on emotions to get you through those times. You definitely, because you get angry, you can't rely on anger to fix things. You get frustrated, or you get, depressed, and you just can't rely on feelings to get through things. There has to be a higher level of thinking. There has to be a higher level of, of thinking to get through situations. So that's how you kind of stay on track. It's just realizing that it's a journey. It's filled with ups and downs and loops and twists and turns, and we just have to, like Paul says, it's a race. We're in it for the long haul, and it's like a marathon. You pace yourself.
Right.
The more experience you become in your spiritual journey, the more trust you develop in God, then you still have the twists and turns, but you have the reassurance that God is there. And that's just the maturity of the relationship that you're developing with God. The transformation that God's making inside of you also has a lot to do with that. So you stay on track by just being patient and not, not being hard on yourself, and asking the Lord to just help you have that patience and that determination and that steadfastness, God doesn't want us to be beating up ourselves every single time either.
We're still investing in that relationship. That's the thing. So I think that's something that helps keep you on track, is still continue to invest in that relationship.
There you go. I like that. Yeah. Invest. Keep on investing. It's like the stock market, right? I mean, it falls, but you keep putting money into it because that at one point it's going to give you a return, right?
Well, that's not what I was going to compare it to. I was going to talk about like marriage, but whatever.
Stock market, marriage, it's all the same.
No, but in a marriage, you have to continue to keep investing in that person if you want to continue to grow, like in your marriage.
Yeah, but for money-minded people out there, I was just using the stock market as an example.
Okay.
Yeah, you keep on investing because at some point you get a return. And you're right, with relationships and marriage, you keep on investing because at some point there will be a turn, right? There will be growth, but you have to keep on putting in, and you can't just give up just because it gets hard. Because life.
Yeah.
Next
question. Okay. Do you want to read it or you want me to?
I'll read it. What's the importance of prayer, and is it about the outcome or the relationship?
It's a very familiar question. I've had this deja vu suddenly here.
Crazy.
Leah and I had a very profound conversation last night, because we were talking about prayer, and I was asking Leah, about her own journey, right? How has she gotten to this point in her life where she's interested in religion and faith and spirituality, right? So we were talking, and so she made some really insightful, very mature. Yeah, very mature. I think she could be a pastor if she wanted to.
I don't think I can stand in front of a lot of people.
This is as far as she goes right here, right? Yeah. This is it right here.
Three.
And the invisible audience. Okay, so the question is,
what's the importance of prayer?
About prayer?
And is it about the outcome or the relationship?
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, yes. Prayer, it can be about outcomes sometimes, but that shouldn't be the focus of prayer. So a lot of times we have the idea, and I'm guilty of it, and I'm sure you all have been guilty of it, that when you pray, no, except for Vanessa because she's a saint. When you pray, it seems like you pray for something, right? I pray for this. I pray for that. I pray for, success. I pray that I don't beat my children. I pray. I'm just kidding. Okay, don't beat your children. That's very unwise and unkind. get you in trouble. But, you pray for outcome. You pray for something to happen, right? And that's it's almost like a natural way of praying, right? Because we're always in that mode that when we pray, we're asking for something, right? And so prayer can easily become very outcome focused, outcome centered. And when it doesn't happen, then what happens? Well, if you don't get the outcome you expect or that you're praying for, then you start thinking, well, maybe prayer doesn't work, right? And I know Leah used a couple of examples in her own life where she's prayed for some things and hasn't been resolved, right, completely, right? And so we all go through that. And so sometimes it's easy to get discouraged because it's like, well, my prayer is not being answered. I'm not getting the answer, the outcome that I'm expecting. So then faith can become weakened. It just, there's no substance to it. It's just about the outcome, the circumstance, the situation.
Sometimes though, there is an outcome. It's just sometimes not what we expect.
Correct.
I think that's one thing that I mentioned as well, is that it's not always gonna come in the way that you want it. But once you realize, like something happened, you're like, oh wow, like that's kind of what I asked for. It's not exactly what I asked for, but it's close to it.
It's what you needed.
Yes.
Yeah, you realize, wow, that's God knew what I needed, right? And so we're reassured. I mean, outcomes can reassure us that relationship we have with God is a reality, that it actually exists, right? So in that way, outcome can reinforce that. But prayer is about just that dialogue with God. And I think you touched on this, Leah, last night, right? That whatever the situation is, I can always pray. I can pray to God, and I know that He is not going to shame me. He's not going to make me feel bad. He may convict me, right? Which is not a comfortable feeling, but he's not a punishing God, right? He'll listen to me. I can come with any concern about anything, and I know that He's going to have my interest at heart, right? And so that's a relationship that you're trying to develop, meaning that's what prayer is all about. Prayer is about dialoguing, talking to God, getting to know Him, and we get to know Him through prayer because the Holy Spirit is also involved in our prayers. Scripture is very clear about that. The Holy Spirit is involved in our dialogue with God. So we are actually in communion with Him at that point. So, what that means is that whatever adversities and hardships and struggles we have in life, that prayer is able to get us through those things because we're not expecting things to just adversity and hardship to just disappear, right? We're not focused on the outcome. We're just focused on that relationship and knowing that God is there all the time and trusting, because that's the key there, is that you're developing trust. And the reason that God also answers our prayers, and it's because He wants us to also understand and be encouraged and know that He's real. That, like you said earlier, that investment that you're putting in, right? At some point, God has to respond to us. He's not going to leave us just, searching and seeking and searching and without any response, because then we would feel like discouraged. I mean, we're never seeing God work in our life, So,
I was going to add, because, I was talking to her this morning. I know that was a conversation you guys were talking about last night, but I was trying to explain to her too about, the importance of prayer and not being about outcome. And I was giving her the example of, there have been things that you and I have had to try to deal with and navigate through, in our marriage, and it wasn't fixed overnight. It's something that's been taking years. And I was explaining to her, I'm like, am I better than I was 5, 6, 7 years ago? Like, yes. I said, but if I would have just given up, then I would have been angry. I would have, I tried to explain to her that now here we are down the road years later, and things are better than I could have ever imagined. You know what I mean? So even though we had a hardship going through that, and, I told her, my prayer during that time was just get me through today. just get me through today. Like every day it was just get me through today. You know, I said my spiritual life wouldn't be where it is today if I hadn't walked through all of that.
Right. Yeah. And even though you didn't have the outcomes that you were wanting or expecting immediately, or it's taken time, but the relationship with God has strengthened. Mm-hmm. You know, he's walked with you through those things. And that's really what spiritually that we're all striving for, right? When we're striving to be closer to God and to feel his presence and to know that that at the end of the day, all we want to know is that you're with me. That's all I want to know. I mean, it doesn't matter.
Nobody wants to walk those journeys alone.
Yeah,
anything.
There's been times when at the end of the day, I'm just, right, even at the beginning of the day, I've got so much on my mind, or I've got all this stuff to do, or maybe the day's just been rough. And really, Lord, I just want to know that you were here. Just that comfort, you know, just kind of coming home and getting a hug. And that's what you want from God. You just want to know that he's been there. And you only achieve that through a daily, constant prayer with him. He speaks to you. He speaks to us. He speaks to us the way we're talking right now through his spirit. He convinces us. He changes our thoughts. He's in our minds. You know, he brings things to our attention. And that's the most beautiful part of our spiritual life, right? I mean, it's not the blessings or the outward things. It's the inward things, right? The peace, knowing that God is always there. So that's what prayer is. Job understood this. Job lost everything. Okay, everything. Almost lost his life in the process. And we know that Satan was directly responsible for taking away everything from him, right? And if Job would have been a outcome-centered person or outcome-focused person, he would have probably abandoned God at that point, right?
Yeah.
And really, he was stripped of everything, and all he had to hang on was that relationship with him. I mean, it was stripped down to the core. I mean, and this was it, Job. It's you and God, and that's it, because everything else is gone. You can't depend on anything else because it's gone. It's been taken. And you see that Job then had that really intimate dialogue with God, right? He questioned God on everything, right? I mean, he was telling him how he felt, what he thought. I mean, and that was the whole crux of the matter right there, is that was that relationship going to survive? And it did, you know, because Job loved God, and he said, you know, even if God strikes me, you know, I'm still going to believe in him. And I think that's what we want to ultimately, that's where we want to be.
Okay.
Good question, Leah. Okay, don't argue about it. Just come on, let's go.
Well, I think you should go with that one because it kind of goes from what he was talking about.
It's okay.
It's a great segue for your last question.
So why do we have so many hardships during our spiritual journey?
Because that's just life, man.
Well,
I mean,
but okay, so here's, because you're struggling.
I'm not struggling. I'm just processing. Again, this is unscripted. I have not been prepared for this.
I mean, I feel like we kind of talked about some of it last night, like, because I mentioned, I was talking about some of the hardships that we have whenever it comes to our faith and just like our like relationship with God.
Yeah.
And I feel like I kind of touched up on some of those, but I didn't like fully go into detail with.
Well, I have to look at it this way. I mean, if we're exempt from hardship, then why did Jesus suffer so much?
Right.
You know, I mean, a hardship is a reality in this world, in this life, right? And it's because of what sin has done to this world, what it's done to each and every one of us individually, right? So hardship is kind of inherent in everything around us.
And everyone's going to experience it.
Yeah.
But I know it always feels like when you choose to make that decision in your life, you know, to follow God, you know, there's somebody else out there who's like, uh-oh, I need to work on this person. I mean, this is somebody who is like, I'm not giving you up without a fight.
Right.
And that person is the devil. When you're not occupied with things of, like anything that has to do with God, he's not worried about you. He gets worried when you start making these decisions in your life, to follow God and to, live according to his will. He's like focused more on you, to try to break that, because his goal is not to just, he wants that power, and he doesn't want you to, he doesn't care about you, so.
Yeah. Well, that's,
not to say,
but you're right. I mean, we, in our spiritual life, we have an adversary. We have a spiritual adversary, right? That is trying to bring us down, And I think sometimes as believers and people that, like you said, Vanessa, that we want to live by God's will, right? We want to do God's will. Our standard of living
changes.
It's different, right? It changes. So we're striving for things that other people may not be striving for. We're striving to live a different kind of life, right? And to live the kind of life that God wants us to live is gonna come with hardship,
because that calls us to be different,
right? Yep, and to add to the hardship of just achieving God's standards and his will is that we have someone who's constantly trying to tear us down and to, bring us down any which way possible, right? So it is extremely hard. And that's why we can't do it on our own. That's why there's no way that we can even achieve God's will and live life by God's will without his help. We can't. There's no way we can do that, because we know the standard is so high and his law is so great. We just can't live it, right? So we have to have that added balance. So we can't go into Christianity blindly or ignorantly and just say, well, I'm going to become a Christian, I'm going to become a believer, and suddenly life's going to be
right, because
easy.
Everything changes, like you said, and probably, like I would say, maybe one of the number one things that changes for a lot of people is before, maybe they worked on Sabbath, maybe they worked on Saturday, and now, you realize that, that's the day that God called to be holy and to rest. And so now it wasn't an issue before, but now it becomes an issue. So you start having little things, like that you see as a hardship,
Yeah. Yeah, because you're seeing things in a very different light now. And you're trying to accomplish, not that you're trying to accomplish things, but you're recognizing that, wow, there's a standard, there's a level of commitment that goes along with this, and it's not easy. But we shouldn't also just focus on the negative things. We also need to focus on the spiritual blessings that we also, even though we have an adversary that's very powerful and an adversary that goes to great lengths.
Yeah, I was going to say, you can't let that stop you.
Well, yeah, but we also have a stronger partner. We have someone that's much stronger than the adversary, much wiser than Satan, right? Much more powerful, and not to mention self-sacrificing. Satan hasn't done anything for us. He's never sacrificed himself for us. He's never put us first.
I think sometimes giving in to those hardships, like just, letting it bother you, worrying you, is almost kind of like even sometimes saying, well, he has more power than God, because, we could struggle and have those hardships, but somehow God always provides in ways. And so you have to remember that he's way stronger than anything that the devil has to throw at you.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you have to lean on that power, and there's no other way around. I don't think there's any way to really enjoy the Christian journey without God. Because who would do that?
Right.
I mean, who would want to be a Christian and try
All
to
you deal with is hardships.
and try to do all that on your own without any hope?
And nobody helps you out.
I wouldn't. I'd rather be an atheist, right? And we'd all be atheists if we didn't have that help, from God. So no one wants to be a Christian and go into the Christian faith alone and by yourself, because we're asking for it at that point. We're being very ignorant and very naive if that's what we think. I can go accept the Christian faith and it's going to be all unicorns, candies, and roses. But there are many, many blessings that come along with that commitment if we stay on course. Right?
Right.
Okay. Well, what's the last question?
Are we still good on time?
Yeah.
I'll
make it brief.
What does God expect from us when we choose to give our lives over to Him?
What does God expect from us when we give our lives over to Him? What does God expect from us?
Yes.
Maybe I'm reading too much into this one, but I don't know that He expects from us, but He has expectations for us.
Okay.
I think He expects us to just be us. He expects us to just be ourselves, and He expects us to struggle. I think He expects that. I think He expects us to struggle in learning about Him. I think he expects to be a growing process. I mean, what did He expect from His disciples? Did He expect, off the bat, all these great things? Can you imagine if Jesus would have expected only the best of His disciples? I mean, that relationship would have been very short-lived. Because how many times did they let Him down? A lot, right? And how many times did they have just a very distorted idea of faith and God, right? So, but Jesus didn't. Yes, Jesus corrected them. Jesus taught them, right? But He did it in a way where it's like, I kind of expected you guys to act this way. I expected you all to behave like this, but you walking with me, will change. It will change you if you allow it to. And I think we saw it with every disciple that walked with Jesus except for Judas. Okay. So I think Jesus just expects us to just come and be us and to have that desire and willingness to walk with Him. And then from that, He works with that.
Okay.
If we have that desire, I think that's the only expectation, is that you have a willingness, that you have a desire, that you have an openness. That's all He needs. He doesn't need us to come and be perfect. He doesn't need us to say, you know what, before I come to God, I got to put this sin away, and then I'll come to Him. He doesn't even expect that. All he wants is for us to have an open heart. And then from there, the journey begins.
All right. Were these questions challenging enough for you today?
My brain hurts. I think your questions deserve a round of applause. I think my answers are okay. It's just my opinion. It's my view. But I hope it helps someone at least. I hope it helps. These are great questions, by the way. And I'm very thankful that you two put your heads together and came up with these questions. Because I think they're very deep questions. I mean, it really, for me at least, it makes me think about, wow, okay, my relationship with God has to go deeper than just the superficial stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And these questions really took a good look at, well, what is your relationship with God like? You're going to have hardship, you're going to have adversity, you're going to struggle. So what do you do with that? And how do you stay on course? How do you keep that faith growing? And so I applaud you all. You did a good job with those questions.
Well, good.
See what happens
I'm
next
glad
time.
it was challenging.
Well, it's always challenging to think about those things.
Great.
Very, very wise. Just this room right now at this moment in time is full of so much wisdom. And silence.
I didn't even know what to say to that.
And silence. Do y'all think you did a good job with your questions? I mean, how would you critique yourselves? You think it could have been better?
Maybe my questions could have been a little bit better.
Room for improvement?
Yeah.
Leah, I mean, your first time on the show here. I mean,
Did you enjoy it?
Did you enjoy it?
Did you learn anything?
Yep.
You think Jesse was wise?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Wisdom comes from God.
Oh, gosh.
Would you do this again?
Probably.
Yeah, you would? We enjoyed having you. You're a very thoughtful person. And I think we need those kind of people in the world today. Thoughtful people. Wise people. Thank you.
She's here every Friday, so we
we
can just start rolling these things out.
Man, every
All
week.
her questions.
Hey, everyone, we're going to be doing a weekly podcast from now on.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I just came up with those questions just like not even that long
like
after.
10 minutes before we got
Yeah.
started.
She's like, I didn't even have these questions written now. I just asked them in the middle of the podcast. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Haystack Nation. Hope you enjoyed it. We encourage you, keep walking with Jesus. Keep him in your heart. He wants to live and walk with you no matter what. Take care. God bless.